Welcome, friends. Come in from the cold. The night has a nip to it, doesn't it? It reminds me of the winds that sweep down from the Zagros Mountains, the very mountains that have watched over this land since the dawn of time. Pull your chairs closer to the fire. Let the flames dance and cast their shadows. Tonight, we are not just travelers in the dark. We are travelers in time. I want to tell you a story. It is a vast story, full of kings and poets, of dust and starlight. It is the story of a place that is both a country on a map and a feeling in the soul. It is the story of Persia. When you hear that word, Persia, what do you see? Perhaps it's a vision from a dream, a garden where fountains whisper and roses bloom forever, a palace of mirrored mosaics catching the moonlight, a flying carpet soaring over minarets. That is the Persia of legend, the Persia of the 1001 Nights. And you are right. It is magical. But if you look at a modern map, you will find a country called Iran. And this is where people sometimes get lost. So, let me give you a key to understanding. Think of it this way: Iran is the house, and Persia is the light that shines from every window. Iran is the name of the modern nation, the land, the people. But Persia is the soul of that place. It is the story of over 2,500 years of art, language, and a spirit that has refused to be extinguished, no matter how strong the wind. This is a legacy that touches your life today, maybe without you even knowing it. From the way we send mail to the very idea that a ruler should be just, Persia was there first, asking the big questions. The people of this land once called it Aryanem, the land of the Aryans, a word that evolved into Iran. But the ancient Greeks, who were their great rivals and students, named them after the heart of their empire, a region called Pars. And so, the world came to know them as the Persians. So, when we speak of Persia tonight, we are speaking of a bridge. Imagine it, a vast, beautiful bridge stretching from the ancient world, across centuries of conquest and change, all the way to the modern day. On this bridge, the East and the West have met, traded, fought, and fallen in love with each other's ideas. Are you ready to walk across that bridge with me? Let us go back, all the way to the beginning of the giants. About 2,600 years ago, the world was a loud and violent place. Small kingdoms were locked in endless squabbles. To be conquered meant to be enslaved, your gods forgotten, your city put to the torch. It was a world ruled by fear. Then, from the margins of history, a man appeared. His name was Cyrus. We call him Cyrus the Great. He was a brilliant general, yes. But he possessed something rarer than a sharp sword. He had a new idea. Cyrus built the world's first true superpower, the Achaemenid Empire. It was colossal. It stretched from the scorching sands of India to the sparkling shores of the Mediterranean. But size wasn't what made it great. It was how he ruled it. When Cyrus conquered a city, he did something unheard of. He did not tear down its temples. He did not force the people to bow to a new god or speak a new tongue. Instead, he declared, "You are free to be who you are." Have you ever heard of the Cyrus cylinder? It's just a small, baked clay barrel, no bigger than a rugby ball. But it is one of the most important objects in human history. It is often called the first charter of human rights. On it, Cyrus laid out his vision: people would be allowed to live in peace, to worship their own gods, to follow their own customs. He even helped the Jewish people, who had been held captive in Babylon, return to their homeland and rebuild their temple. Because of this act of humanity, he is celebrated as a hero not just in Iran, but in the pages of the Hebrew Bible, too. Think about that for a moment. In an era of swords and fire, a king chose the path of kindness. He believed an empire wasn't made stronger by crushing its subjects, but by earning their loyalty. This was the first great lesson of the Persian way. The empire grew under kings like Darius. They built the royal road, a kind of ancient information superhighway, allowing messages and trade to flow freely across the empire. And from this, they created the world's first postal system. Imagine a rider on a fast horse, carrying a sealed royal message through sun and storm. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus would later write of these Persian couriers: neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. The spirit of connection, of binding a vast world together, began right here, in the heart of Persia. But every great story has a twist of fate. For Persia, it came from the west, in the form of a young, flame-haired king from Macedonia. You know him as Alexander the Great. He was ambitious, brilliant, and he wanted to conquer the world. And the greatest prize in that world was Persia. The battles were epic, the kind that bards still sing about. The last Achaemenid king, Darius III, fought with courage, but Alexander was a force of nature. Finally, he reached the ceremonial capital, the jewel of the empire, Persepolis. And there, in a night of fire and fury, he burned it to the ground. It was a catastrophe. The world watched the greatest city fall, and many believed the Persian flame had been snuffed out forever. But here is the strangest, most beautiful part of the story. Alexander didn't destroy Persian culture. Instead, Persian culture captured him. He started wearing the flowing robes of a Persian king. He married a beautiful Persian princess named Roxana. He encouraged his generals and soldiers to take Persian wives. He didn't want to be just a Greek conqueror, he wanted to be the new great king of Persia. He understood that to rule this land, he had to become it. This created a magnificent fusion. We call it the Hellenistic period. Greek statues began to show a hint of Persian elegance. Persian ideas about astronomy, governance, and faith began to flow west into the Greek and Roman worlds. Science, philosophy, and art were traded like precious metals. For a brief, shining moment, East and West looked into each other's eyes and saw a reflection of themselves. Alexander died young, and his empire fractured. But the seeds of Persia, scattered in the wind, did not die. They lay dormant in the rich soil, waiting for the right season to bloom again. Have you ever lost something precious, only to find that the loss taught you how to become stronger? That is what happened to Persia. It learned the art of survival. After the Greeks, two more great Persian empires rose from the ashes, the Parthians and the Sassanids. For over 400 years, they stood like an unbreakable wall against the West. The mighty Roman Empire, at the peak of its power, tried again and again to push east. But they could never defeat the Persians. Why? Because the Persians were masters of the horse. They created the legendary Savaran cavalry, the knights of the ancient world. Imagine warriors encased in gleaming steel, riding immense, armored horses, charging with the force of a mountain avalanche. They were the superweapon of their age, and they held the line. But life wasn't just about war. During the Sassanid era, a beautiful and ancient religion reached its zenith, Zoroastrianism. It taught a profound and simple philosophy: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Can you imagine a world built on that foundation? Zoroastrians saw the universe as a cosmic battle between truth and lies, light and darkness. They used fire, pure, undying flame, as a symbol of God's wisdom. Even today, during the Persian New Year, Nowruz, families leap over small fires, singing, "Give me your red glow, take away my sickly pallor." It is a ritual born from those ancient flames. This was a silver age of Persian culture. Kings built colossal arches, like the Tak Kasra near modern Baghdad, the largest unsupported brick arch in the world. They wove silk so fine it was worth its weight in gold, crafted silver plates showing their kings hunting lions, and blue glass so delicate it seemed like frozen light. To be sophisticated in Rome meant to dress like a Persian. But empires, like people, grow weary. Persia and Rome bled each other dry in centuries of war. They were exhausted, weakened, looking the other way. And from the southern deserts, a new wind was beginning to blow. In the 7th century, armies from Arabia arrived, carrying a new faith, Islam. The Sassanid Empire fell, and many assumed the Persian identity would finally be erased, absorbed into a new Arab world. But remember what I told you. Persia has a way of captivating its conquerors. The Arabs brought the revelation of the Quran, but the Persians brought the engine of civilization. The new Islamic world needed administrators, doctors, mathematicians, and architects to build its grand cities. The Persians stepped forward, and in doing so, they helped ignite the Islamic Golden Age. Persia became its brilliant, beating heart. Have you ever used algebra? You can thank a Persian genius named Al-Khwarizmi. In fact, the word algorithm comes from the Latinized version of his name. He didn't just invent math, he gave us the very tools that power the computers in your pocket today. And then there was Avicenna, or Ibn Sina. He was a polymath, a true giant. His medical encyclopedia, the Canon of Medicine, was the standard textbook in Europe for over 500 years. He taught doctors how to diagnose diseases and understand the human body. In Baghdad, the caliphs built the House of Wisdom, a library and academy where scholars from Persia, Greece, India, and beyond gathered to translate, argue, and discover. The Persians didn't hoard their knowledge, they shared it with the world. They mapped the stars, designed hospitals with separate wards, and built gardens with intricate water systems that were poetry in stone and water. They believed the pursuit of knowledge was a form of prayer. They proved, centuries ago, that science and faith could not only coexist but could dance together in brilliant harmony. Now, my friends, let's step away from the scholars and the soldiers. Let's talk about the heart of Persia. Because for a Persian, the heart finds its truest voice in poetry. In an Iranian home today, you will almost certainly find two books, the Quran and a collection of poetry. Poetry is not a decoration, it is a necessity, as essential as bread. People don't just read it, they live by it, they quote it in conversation, they find comfort in it during times of sorrow. Think of the poet Rumi. You may have seen his words on social media, speaking of love, of the soul's longing for the divine. His poetry is a warm embrace for the spirit, a reminder that we are all part of something vast and beautiful. And then there is Hafez. When an Iranian faces a difficult decision, they might perform Fali Hafez, a kind of divination. They open his book to a random page, and they believe the poem they find will speak directly to their heart and offer guidance. Imagine a culture where a poet is treated with that kind of reverence, where his words are seen as a compass for the soul. This love of beauty is also carved into stone and tile in cities like Isfahan. There is an old saying, Isfahan is half the world. When you stand in the Nakshi Jahan Square and gaze at the Shiklat Fala Mosque, with its dome that seems to change color from cream to pink as the sun moves across the sky, you begin to understand why. The blues of the tiles are so deep they feel like a piece of the ocean captured and glazed forever. And we cannot forget the Persian carpet. These are not just floor coverings. They are stories woven in wool and silk. Each knot is a word. The patterns speak of gardens, of mythical creatures, of the weaver's hopes and dreams. When you walk on a Persian carpet, you are walking on a history book, a prayer rug, a work of art. This is what the Persians call zogul, a special word that means taste, passion, a creative fire. It is the force that makes life beautiful, that turns a simple meal into a feast and a bare wall into a window to heaven. But Persia's story is not just a smooth, beautiful river. It has been through many floods. The Mongols came, like a plague from the east, destroying cities and stacking skulls into pyramids. And yet, once again, the Persian spirit survived. It even tamed the conquerors, teaching them to appreciate poetry and gardens. In 1501, a new dynasty, the Safavids, rose to power. They did two things that would define Iran for centuries to come. First, they unified the country after centuries of fragmentation. They made Iran a cohesive nation-state again. Second, they declared Shia Islam the official religion of the realm. This set them apart from their powerful Sunni neighbors, the Ottomans. It gave Iran a distinct religious identity, a sense of being a unique island in a sea of different beliefs. Under Shah Abbas the Great, Persia's golden age returned. He made Isfahan his capital, a city of unparalleled beauty. He welcomed merchants from England, China, and India. The empire grew rich on silk and spices. Persia was no longer just a glorious memory, it was a powerful, modern player on the world stage. It was a rebirth, a proud declaration, we are Persians, and we have our own way. If you are ever lucky enough to visit an Iranian home, you will encounter something both wonderful and perplexing. It is called Taraf. It is a complex, beautiful system of politeness, a ritualistic dance of words. Imagine you are a guest. Your host offers you a bowl of pistachios. You politely decline. They insist, placing the bowl closer. You might refuse again, saying, "No, thank you, you are too kind." They will then insist a third time, perhaps even looking a little hurt. This back and forth is tear-off. The host is showing their deep respect by offering everything they have. The guest is showing their humility by not accepting too readily. It can be confusing. A shopkeeper might say, "It is a gift for you. Please, take it for free." He doesn't literally mean it's free, but he is honoring you. You must politely insist on paying. This dance is about putting the other person first, about making them feel welcomed and honored. It is the secret ingredient in the legendary hospitality of Iran. If you are a traveler there, do not be surprised if a stranger invites you home for tea and dinner. They will give you the best food, the most comfortable spot on the carpet, and treat you like a king or queen. They are not just being nice, they are practicing an ancient art of the heart, a code of honor that says a guest is a blessing from God. Tear-off is a reminder to slow down, to be gracious, to see social life not as a transaction but as an opportunity for beauty and connection. The 20th century arrived with the speed of a locomotive. Persia, officially renamed Iran in 1935, raced to modernize. Railways, universities, and factories were built. The discovery of oil brought immense wealth, but also the intense, often unwelcome, attention of global powers. There were moments of dazzling progress and periods of deep struggle. In 1979, a revolution transformed the country's political landscape entirely. But through all the upheaval, the revolutions, the wars, and the headlines, the people of Iran remained the same at their core. They remained resilient. Resilience is the art of bending without breaking, of finding a way to bloom even in the desert. Iranians are masters of this art. Even when times are hard, they still gather with their families to celebrate Nowruz, to set the Haftzin table with its 7 symbolic items, to welcome the spring. They still read Hafez for guidance. They still cook fragrant stews like gourmet sabzi for their loved ones. Young Iranians today are deeply connected to the world through the internet. They are highly educated, they love cinema and music. But they carry the entire weight and beauty of Persia's 2,500-year story in their hearts. Iran has faced countless storms. But a tree with roots that deep does not fall. The headlines on the news tell one story, a story of politics and conflict. But behind those headlines are millions of people with dreams, with a love for their ancient culture, with a deep and abiding humanity. As our fire burns low, casting long shadows, let us think about what we have learned tonight. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have seen conquerors come and go. But the spirit of Persia is still here, sitting with us by this fire. Why? Because Persian culture is not made of stone that can be crumbled. It is not made of borders that can be moved. It is made of stories. It is made of words. It lives in the way an Iranian greets a stranger, in the poetry they quote, in the intricate patterns they weave, in the deep respect they show for a guest. It is immortal. Persia teaches us the most profound lesson: culture is stronger than power. Beauty is stronger than force, ***. Thank you, my friends, for sharing this fire and this story with me. I hope that now, when you hear the names Persia or Iran, you will not just see a place on a map. You will see a bridge connecting the ancient and the modern. You will remember the first declaration of human rights. You will remember the invention of algebra and the poetry of Rumi. You will remember a people who have turned hospitality into an art and resilience into a national treasure. The next time you look up at the stars, or read a line of poetry, or solve a problem with an algorithm, or simply share a cup of tea with a friend, remember the Persians. They have been sharing their light with the world for a very long time. And their story, their beautiful, enduring story, is not over yet. Not by a long shot.